Okay, hello everyone. We are back into the screen, me and Fredrik, and today we're gonna talk about economy. And Fredrik here, he has a long background within banking, and so he knows this stuff. This is not really my area, but Fredrik has prepared some slides, and he has also written a book on this. So it's gonna be really interesting to see what he has to tell us today.
Yeah, so I'm Fredrik then. So I didn't really say much about who I am and stuff. But so I'm a education-wise, I'm a mechanical engineer. I have a master in mechanical engineering from university, and I've been working for 25 years as a consultant in the banking industry, mainly for trading securities, various kinds of derivatives, equity, commodity derivatives, currency derivatives. So I've been a system expert, you could say, the guy who knows the system, and then solving problems in the system. So this is about the money system, you could say, and what should be done about it. And today we have the 17th of November, as we all know, in the year 2020. And during the weekend here, we had a new moon in Scorpio. And I listened to a really cool intuitive astrologer called Wonder Girl Astrology the other night. And I don't know how she does it, but it seems that this new moon in Scorpio 2020 is about all our souls taking the step into being the one we were intended to be. If we underline some contract when we arrived into our bodies, this is the time when we get to going on our true life path, so to speak. It's really, really strange, since I've been working on this book and the problems with the economic system for very long. So we'll see how you like it, so to speak. My model, so to speak. It's all you're always in your head, so to speak. So it's there, everything happens. So it's what I hope to do is just to lay out the principles for a slightly different economic system.
That's a big task.
Yeah, it is. And then also we have, this is the day before, in 1302, it was the beginning of our Western Roman law system, you could say, since the Pope, as we spoke about the last time, when we got Christian here, very close to 1,000 years ago, in the year 1050, we got a new information system, and mainly then a new text system. And in the year 1302, the Pope wrote this papal bull, a new decree, so to speak, from the Pope, where he actually claimed something like this: well, hence everybody, everything exists in the world, and we all know, since it's written in the book, that it's created by God. But God isn't here around us, but luckily for all of you, I'm here in his place. So everything, lock, stock, and barrel, people, everything belongs to me. So from now on, you have to ask me before you do anything, and it's all for your good, since otherwise you may mess things up and God will be angry. So now, from now on, you have to ask me first. And that created a kind of layer above the earth, so to speak, a legal system where you had to ask the Pope first. And to me, that was the creation of a fourth dimension. It wasn't really visible. And today, everyone is now living in that legal system, having our legal entities. So for us to be able to do this interview, for instance, someone has to have a contract with a telecommunication system. And that identity is now not really actually talking, but that has to exist there in the background. So a lot of people now are living in this fifth dimension. So you're creating an avatar on Twitter or in World of Warcraft or whatever, and then you're living in that avatar instead of in the 3D world.
Yeah.
So I think, and I've been also working quite a lot with remote viewing and aura readings and things like that. So it's quite hard when you do a reading and if you get lost, so to speak, in trying to explain what you're seeing. Since we have, both you and I have heard this about the humanity entering a fifth dimension and other horror stories, and that, to me, that's true. Actually, a lot of people live in this fifth dimension. They don't know anything about the real world.
Exactly.
They can complain that there are no avocados in the store, and then they have no idea that there was a hurricane in Brazil, so there aren't any avocados this year. But they don't mind where are my avocados. So they are living in this fifth dimension.
You lose the roots to the reality in one way.
Exactly. So now we have the 17th of November, so it's the day before tomorrow, so to speak, when the fourth dimension was created.
But it's interesting. This in the sign of Scorpio, most this kind of has been big changes and happenings around in the Scorpio. If you look back in history,
exactly.
I remember like the Soviet Union was also created under the sign of Scorpio. Very precise. He stood like and watched the clock when they opened the gates and marched out from the Winter Palace there to declare. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, so that the tomorrow that the powers that be, so to speak, talk about is this great reset that has to do with money. So I will now present another model, so to speak, for a great reset, but not in their way, so to speak.
I'm not very surprised that you know, because I know about your ancestor and so, and I can imagine them also being very interested in economics. They call like some of these kings like one economy guy and also like a warlord at the same time.
Yeah, so it's you never know why they broke up, so to speak, with the Pope and taking over, so to speak, the tax system.
Yeah, hijacking it.
Exactly. Maybe they did it for good purposes, but as we all now know, it was taken over again then or something, since it obviously doesn't work the way we are dealing with things.
Well, it has been getting very bad since with the internet and you don't have any roots with the money either to the reality.
Exactly, and we have a huge problem that only experts, these fucking experts everywhere, are talking about its subject. So it's all about this, that the fucking, the putting people into fuck, into and that makes it you don't see the totality of things.
No, that's the problem in general today. People don't have the total overview. But so, I see when we did this thing with on another podcast, Michelle told that before we have a more complete understanding of things, today we are like experts in every, you just know a fraction of it. You're just a little cog in a bigger wheel that someone who knows the entire picture.
Yeah, it's so very, very black and white. So you stretch it to the blackest black. Otherwise, the only alternative is the whitest white, and that's not really how it works.
No.
In real life.
All right. Do you want to get into the slides soon? Or?
Yeah, sure.
Because I'm sure we're gonna have to talk about a lot of things here too. You need to explain. All right, here we go. And I'm also gonna do like this. Oh yeah. We don't have the biggest budget, so. Oh, can you see this now?
Yes.
Oh, I skipped ahead a little bit. There we go.
Yeah. So the economic model, as I've described in the book, very soon is about to be released. It's called 180 or 180 in English then. ett 80 is perhaps not such. It's not so used frequently in Swedish, but younger people, of course, know it, but older perhaps don't. But in English, it's very frequent to do a 180 or a 360. So what it's all about is not turning around completely, so you are turning in the same direction as you were when you started, but turning around so that you're looking. It's about changing perspective
and direction.
Yeah.
Okay. Next slide.
Yep. Sure. Please. Thank you. So it's as we spoke about the last time. Swedish people are not really religious, but if they are asked, "Do you believe in God?" they say no. Are you religious? No. Are you an atheist? Don't you believe in anything? No. What do you believe in then? Något. Which in a dictionary would translate to something. But it's actually deeper if you look at the sounds from the mythology, the Finnish mythology that we are speaking so much about. So we have the å sound. An å in Swedish is still a river. So it's running water. And it's about nå as well. Nå, the word nå is to reach. And to me that has to do with how can you get to knowledge? How do you reach knowledge? And knowledge. So it's also connected to nå.
Yeah.
So that's an N in Swedish is ö. So it's becoming a river. N-å, nå. How do you become a river? How do you reach your knowledge? It's about jumping into the flow, so to speak, into the river. And there's a mix there between freedom of choice. You can jump into the river if you want to, but then if you think it's too cold, you jump up again to the bank, to the river bank, so you get warm again. And then for some reason, something pushes you into the river again. And that might be fate then. So it's about this flow to gott, which is then it's good.
It's not Gothic. It's very similar to that. Gott.
Exactly.
We have Gothenburg. Gothenburg with the Gott.
So it's about reaching good, and that's what något is. And that's a lifelong river journey then. And you had an interesting statue that you saw the other day about the river.
Yeah, this idea with the life is like a flow, but it's a statue here in Umeå on Apollo, and he has a telescope, and he has a raven in his other hand. And it's interesting, if you look at the telescope, it says like, okay, I only remember this in Swedish though.
Yeah, so no problem.
It's life flows like in two files, also like
two rivers.
Yeah, two rivers, one internal and one external. And it's like an 8 almost, because it reaches a pool and sort of go back and forth in a way. It's really interesting. But
metaphor. Yeah.
It must be some kind of, I don't know who put it there, but it's clearly some kind of message someone put out.
Yeah, exactly.
But
yeah. So next slide.
Okay.
So how do you know gott then? How do you reach good? You have to live a life, and you have to be alive. And here is a trick with written language. If you see the sounds, or if you change the spelling, it becomes something different. So life in Swedish is liv, like leaf on a tree, and it's spelled like this: liv, L-I-V. So you're living two lives, just as the Apollo statue says. You live one life with your body, your A-liv, you're alive, and then your internal life is your B-liv, you believe. So you're living two lives at the same time, the B-liv and the A-liv. And everything that happens is based on your senses, and they have their commando central in the head. So everything happens actually happens in the head of everyone. So it's that's what it's all about. It's finding your river, so to speak, and finding your något, and not be absolutely sucked in by other people's beliefs. So you have to take care of both your A-leaf, of course, so you don't hurt yourself, and then in the same way you have to take care of your B-leaf and your thinking.
Exactly.
So it's really cool. So how it's built into the language that you're actually living to
Yeah,
life.
I thought we had to
It's
clarify
brilliant.
that a little bit. It's the thing is like the basics of what we are talking about. We didn't talk about it much last time, but there is a mythology where you get like a handbook almost, but not a handbook, but it's more like a tool that, for example, you can see like hieroglyphs is like a mark and a meaning, and this meaning, this mark has also a sound, of course. That so it kind of the sound in itself represents something.
Exactly.
And we have that also with this Swedish language. The Swedish language in itself is very much like this, that you have a mark and a meaning for it, and it's so clear in the Swedish language when you have the
exactly.
understanding of the
You have
sounds.
you have, as you said, you have three things. You have the mark, and the meaning, and the sound.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's the same with if you read the what's it called, the Hebrew Kabbalah. It's also based on the sounds.
Exactly.
And the Hindu meditation practices is also based on the sounds, where you have the Om sound be the highest sound, and we come to that actually. It's not at all special to have
No.
a mark, sound, and meaning.
It seems to be like the thing that was going on in ancient times.
Yeah.
In like most cultures.
Yeah.
So it's but the interesting thing is you know the meaning is the thing that can sort of, where did you get that meaning from? But the entire system in itself checks and balances it. So if you get something wrong in one end, you're gonna find out it very soon, because it's like they fit in together, all the sounds, with the meaning that is presented, thankfully, with this mythology that has been surviving from Finland. So this is, but this is a much deeper study. But this is where we get this perspective, because, like Fredrik is saying, this is 180. It's very interesting to look at it from another perspective.
Yeah, and who can say what's true and what's false? It's just it has to do with in some way we have to start thinking for ourselves and not only trusting what someone else has written somewhere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Shall we go ahead?
Yeah, we go ahead.
This is the title.
Yeah, so this is the cover sheet from the book I've written. So it's in Swedish then, obviously, 180, and then it's called Tänk om. And Tänk om, there's this om sound, which is the highest then in Hindu meditation practice, the om. And om actually makes the other word, so to speak, bigger. So this is Tänk om. So this is, and Tänk in English is think. So Tänk om has two meanings actually. It's both rethink and what if. So it's the new model here is both a rethink and a what if model. So it's a small book, en liten bok, om or about givare, givers, and economy.
I have to ask you, Fredrik.
So the system is based on giving instead of taking. Yeah, shoot.
Is this book coming in English or Swedish?
No, it's a Swedish book.
Okay.
In this version, it's not really been released, and so far I think only my publisher has read it actually. So it's really new, And if anyone wants to contact me, I have a homepage for this book. So the homepage is ett80 tankom.com.
We're gonna put a link below, so
Ja,
if people
och
are
.se.
interested.
Alltså info@ett80tankom.se.
Okay.
No, .info I think. Sorry.
Yeah, but we're
.info.
gonna put a link below so everyone can click that that is interested
Excellent.
in this. So.
Yeah.
Let's go for.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's based actually on this obvious view on the human being. So that based on the five senses that we have, which are written in Swedish here, you have sight, smell, feeling, taste, and hearing. And these five senses make some kind of reality egg around every human being. So depending on how well developed your senses are, you notice, so to speak, more and more in your environment. And so you, Yuki, for instance, who is a musician, you hear differently than I do, since you are a lot more used to listening to, that must be this instrument and that must be that instrument. So you have developed your hearing a lot better than I have. So the reality egg is always developing, you could say, but it's very important to remember that every human being has a reality egg, and it's yours. It's one of the things that actually is yours, but of course it can be manipulated from other people, and your own reality egg has no meaning if you're alone.
Exactly.
You have to have another person or another human being, and you can share your reality eggs and developing your understanding of the surrounding, or which is a different word that I want to use. A lot of talk now is about climate and environment and things, but in Swedish I would suggest using the word omgivning. Omgivning. So it's actually translated to, what could it be? About giving. Since everything that's around you is already there, so it's a given. So built into the language is an understanding of you are in a world that already exists. It has been given to you already. It is already there. So it's, if you want to change something in your omgivning, you have to give it energy or focus and rethink how can I change my surrounding or my omgivning in some way. So you have to give it energy to change your omgivning. You have to change what is already given.
I was just thinking about this little story that come from the mythology there, that if you stop using nature, it sort of will fade away. And that ties into that word also with the omgivning. It's constantly giving, but
you have to give yourself as well, otherwise it disappears.
Yeah, but it's more a a philosophical thing, but it's just interesting to put in there. Are we going to the next?
Yeah, please.
Oh, the problems.
Yeah. And here you have a way of manipulating many people's belief system, and that's mainly done as Martin Luther once stated, that if we must have public schooling so that we can teach the humanity or the people what to think. And these problems that I've listed here in Swedish, I actually found in a school book. I found, my father is a teacher, so this is actually from a physics school book. So it's published by the school, so that you will get used to something that they stated as trends. And the trends that I state as problem are follows. The humanity grows steadily, consumption grows steadily, income per capita grows steadily, world economy grows steadily, more and more materials and energy is transformed, nature is affected more and more, cunning or possibilities to communicate increase. There is more and more to know or to handle, and the potential of possibilities increase. And we see here that everything is growing, especially then both the number of people and the economy. So the income grows. So that means that something must be creating to back what the reason these problems exist, or the trends, is not a way of thinking as I see it. There has to be something in the physical world that has this effect. It's not just a way of thinking. It must be something that actually happens. So we get in, and that's what my book is about, how to solve this actual problem that exists. And we can take the next slide.
But I had a little question. Where?
Yeah, sure.
The problems, those like statements, you said you drawed it from something?
Yes, I found a book on my father's desk. He's a teacher, so it was something written by the Skolverk, the education authorities, given to teachers, so that they should inform the children that these are the trends in the world, and there's nothing to do about it. So I see this as a way of mind control.
Well, I'm just
if you get used to them and just look at them as trends, it's a natural thing. Then you believe it, but it isn't. It's as I see it, it's not just a way of thinking, not a natural thing. It's an actual physical thing that happens in our society when money are created as they are, which we will come to later.
Okay, we go for.
Yes.
The problems.
I continued, and I added some more problems, and that's debt. Debt is growing steadily. Common assets like schools, elderly homes, apartments, power plants, they go from being owned together or by the state to be private. So some private companies owns them instead. The psychic health of humanity is getting worse and worse. The number of laws is growing steadily. Corporations, or bolag in Swedish, are growing and becoming global. And the control and surveillance of humanity increases. And as I see it, we will see here, it all has partly the same source.
All right.
But it's many things, of course. But and that's also a trick that you get taught in school, that there is one answer to each question. If you have a mathematic book or something and you have some problems, you can go into the back of the book and there you have the answer. It is there. We have to stop believing in this it to be the solution to everything. Believing that there's an disease that causes people to die. It's an everything is an it, but it's not. It's a lot of things that make people die. It has always been. It's not finding the expert giving the answer, giving the it, that we solve everything. That's not how it works. Stop believing in the it.
Think for yourself.
Yeah, but it's many things. It's frustrating to believe in it since it doesn't exist. It's many things always.
You have taken on a massive task here, Fredrik.
Yeah, but we'll see. We'll see where.
I think it's on the.
What I'm trying to get at is that it's a model, so to speak. It's a way of thinking. Where you'll get into that. Next slide, please.
Okay.
So we had the reality egg that is for one individual, but then if you are several people, you share the reality egg. So between groups of people, you can share the reality egg. So it's both individual and shared to some extent. Yeah. Next.
But this is very much how the Christian way of living is. You have a household and people are living in the same like reality egg, but on a much smaller scale than we did with the previous system. This is interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
next.
And originally then, this is explanation of where the word bolag comes from in Swedish. You have a bo or a nest, a house, which is bo then in Swedish, and the people living there is a team or a log.
Log is also law.
Exactly. So, and this makes it easy to understand where bolag comes from as a word in Swedish. In English, the word corporation is used, and that's introduced in the 16th century, so in the year 1500, about when Gustav Vasa was king in Sweden. It's a lot of Latin words are introduced into the English language, and since we still have the bolag, we can understand what it actually means. But if you just have a legal term, corporation, just entered into the law books all of a sudden, you have to read what the definition is. If you have the bolag like this, you understand that it's a kind of a way of organizing yourself around some problem or some actual the problem with just staying alive, as it is here in the north.
Yeah, the climate has always been the enemy almost.
Exactly, and then you can of course formalize it and state we are this bolag, so we can register our bolag somewhere. So you have a corporation then in English.
The best example is like one farmer's house. Where you have a farmer, and often all the kids also help out on the bolag.
Exactly. And I don't know how much we should get into this very strange Swedish language or a root language, but as I've written it here, it's a kind of a ring around the bolag, and that actually explains how the log is the law then is, and who it defines, so to speak, how you decide what to do, since you have a ring around the bolag. And the ring is a very, very ancient way of looking at things, since it is the regering that decides. So it means the re-give ring. So in the bolag, everyone that's in there has to do their best, so to speak, for every individual task. If you're changing the roof, for instance, you're doing it together, and everyone has to know what their task is and really do it. So you have to give your energy to the ring, so to speak. You see the ring there?
Yeah, it's very interesting. You said regering is the regeringen is the government in Swedish. Just to
exactly. So it is the regering that decides, and who or what the regering is depends on the task. That's you see it here from this picture.
That's a good point.
Perhaps it's the female that knows most. So then she is the regering, you could say, but it's also always the ring as a group. And then you have to decide who knows best about this specific task. And then it is the ring together that decides. So it's the regering.
It's also like like you do it.
Exactly.
It's something that is not like fixated in the same way, like it
no, you do it again. Yeah.
So it's about discussion also with teori.
Exactly.
The O is also one ring. You sit and have theory together and maybe come up with a solution.
So it's very different as a word to have the regering deciding for you what to do, as we have today in the regering is the Swedish government, so to speak. But if you have the regering as a word, You understand you can at least understand what the regering is. But if you have the word govern and then ment is from the Latin mentus, which is mind. So it's all about governing minds. It's a completely different thing.
Boom. It becomes so clear, especially when you see like the other side,
Mm.
with the Latin,
Exactly.
which is like a more or less fabricated language.
Yeah, it's very, very strict. So every word has one meaning, and that's it. But in Swedish, you have to, or in root, you have to. It's a lot more. It's an entire model, and it depends, so to speak, what it means.
Exactly, and it's a nature-based language.
Mm.
So it has to do with it's based on nature,
Yeah.
logics.
Yeah.
All right, take the next one.
So then, coming back to money, if you walk around, these are two pictures from stuff, so to speak, found in Västergötland, so West Gotland. So on the upper left we have, I think it's called gånggrift, which are these are found from the Black Sea down to Baskia, all around Europe. And to me, this indicates that people must have been organized in quite large groups, and they couldn't have been bothered with getting food every day, since the people building these things, these stone houses, must have had time to spare, so to speak.
But I think about like the Swedish jordkällare.
Mm.
Could that be, or what?
No, but these are huge stones. These are like,
Okay.
I don't know, 5 tons or something.
Yeah, I've seen stuff like this very similar in Sweden.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And
probably
then
a lot of it.
to the bottom right, I don't know, this is a guldhalskrage. So this is from solid gold, and it's found in the 1836 or something like that, outside Ulricehamn. But they think it's from the year 400 or something, 500. This called folkvandringstid. I don't know what it's called in English.
Migration.
The migration times there around the year 500. But if you look carefully on this golden thing here, it still today no one really knows how the hell they were able to create such a feat. It's amazingly detailed. Maybe it's things like that that will be found in that famous cave in the in the mythology.
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of objects there, and it will shake the world if they open it.
But it's also interesting to see here that it's built in. It's made from solid gold, and that's very good. But also the way of thinking that is pushed on you from school is when I saw a picture of this in my children's school book. It said, "This is a golden necklace. It must have been worth a fortune." And that's not at all the case, since in those days they didn't even have money. So it couldn't have been worth a fortune, since it wasn't it wasn't created for such a purpose. It was built for some other purpose. So you get tricked today in school that everything has some kind of value, and that can be translated into money, and that's not the case.
Yeah, you can. I remember when I was in Vietnam, they wouldn't even accept money.
Mm-hmm.
Some people down there, because they were just living just fine. They don't need much money to survive. They had their own fish farm and were living a good life.
Yeah.
And they didn't wanted to accept any money. And for me, they looked super poor.
Yeah, but I just wanted to stress here that it is possible to live quite a lot of people together and creating really, really advanced handicraft without money, if you just do it, so to speak. But I'm not at all suggesting that we should go from this extremely money-based system to a no money system. But we have to create a money system that is at least sustainable to some extent.
Well, there
But
was a system with money, but it worked completely different.
mm,
You know about this
possibly
story?
it's also very difficult to prove how it works, since it's
Well, in the
there's
we can just tell from the mythology,
yeah.
and in that case, so it's you had one king, the king sitting governing
Mm,
the regering, and
mm,
he put um, every year he sent out money with his face on,
mm-hmm.
and it was like very calculated who got the money and how much. But at the end of the year, he took all the money back, so no one could collect and stack extra. So he
It was only a means then
exactly
to get things going in the
exactly,
whatever society. Yeah.
and also maybe to see um, what is needed more of, like professions and so,
Yeah.
and also to maybe see who makes the best stuff, because at the end he can then see, oh, this guy has earned a lot.
Yeah. So he must be doing good things.
Yeah, but then they send it all back.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting case, I think.
Absolutely.
But it's very based on honesty, and I don't think greed was as it is today.
Invented yet.
Exactly.
No.
But it was a symbol of Papa, on the face of the
Mhm.
coin. I think it was more. It's very symbolical, I would say,
Yeah.
to carry around gold coins.
Yeah.
Next one.
We can take the next. Yeah, please. So, if you then have two bolags or several bolags in some kind of larger area, you can use some kind of money then as a nervous system, you could say, to do things on a larger scale, perhaps, or depending on what you do. It's someday there was this invention, money, but money as such is included. It's hard to define what money is actually. So you can simply use it if you have several bolags. That's what I want to stress. Yeah. Next.
It's yeah.
So here is where this is my boo, my nest, and it didn't. So the area or the ground didn't at all look like this when I got it. So I used my freedom of choice and removed the old house, the old building, and put this one in there instead. But I didn't do it on my own, so to speak. I had to hire people to assist, both to to draw it, and then to put it there, so to speak. But what I want to say here, that I got the property, so to speak. I claimed it, no, but I bought it actually. And then I changed the omgivning. I changed the surrounding using my freedom of choice. So I actually took the drawings, I went to my neighbors and said, this is the house I intend to build. Are you agree? Do you agree? Yeah, are you giving me your okay? And they all signed on. So I checked with my neighbors, is it okay for you if I put this house in your area? So I used my freedom of choice to change my omgivning, my surrounding. And now everyone else has to cope with my usage of my valfrihet, my freedom of choice. So it's philosophically, you could say that I had this property as a loan, so to speak, and I can use my valfrihet, my freedom of choice, to change it. But then it becomes my responsibility, since other people have to deal with what I have done. They have to handle what I leave after me. So in some way, I have changed the surrounding. The omgivning is changed by me. And then the question is, do I now have debt? Am I guilty of this? Or have I just used my freedom of choice? And I see it as I have used my skills and working power so I can go to the bank and have these widgets called money that I could give to other people so they could help me to build this house. But it's all based on my freedom of choice. I did this.
It's your idea.
It's my idea. I went to the bank. I got the money. I gave it to other people. But now the question is, am I in debt or have I just used my freedom of choice? Given the papal bull there from 1302, obviously the Pope thought that now, since I've done something to his planet, I'm in debt to him. But that's not how I see it. I wanted this house and I got okay from my neighbors, so I did it.
Exactly. It's only the workers that
they got paid for it, so everyone is pleased. It's just the question of me and the bank, so to speak, or other people. Do we need some third party, a middleman, giving out debt to us, or should we be responsible for our own freedom of choice without the middleman?
It's a tough question. I have to really figure on this.
Yeah, so this is an example of exercising your freedom of choice, so to speak. And this is the same with everything, all the roads and all the power plants and school buildings, and someone has to want something and do it. Otherwise, there is nothing there.
Very true.
Next.
It's the basis.
Yeah. So the inspiration for my suggested new model is a really, really genius Norwegian language psychologist, Frode Strømsnes, and he says that he's amazing his work. He says that the words themselves carries no meaning. The words are simply pointers or addresses into a space in the brain for mental models. So if I say the word cup, for instance, like a cup of coffee, the word cup isn't the meaning. It's the vision I have in my head of the object cup. That's the meaning. And then the word is just a pointer, so that it's kind of, if you go into the library, you can go to the register to see where to find a certain book. It's on shelf HCE blah blah blah. And the words are the same thing. They are just pointers to models in the brain. And a different thing that he found out was that he was really interested in this ever present thought that a lot of language psychologists have, that there seemed to be some connection between language, perception, and behavior. And what is this? So there is a famous Sapir-Whorf hypothesis that says that two people with different mother tongue can't fully understand each other in every sense. And they came to this conclusion after, I think they went around and wrote down like 100 native Indian languages in North America. And they found that they behaved really, really differently to the Europeans. And they found that they had certain words and that described the surrounding or the omgivning completely differently. So they couldn't really understand what the Europeans did to the planet. And hence they formed this Sapir-Whorf hypothesis.
That's very interesting, Fredrik. I just have to shoot in there with the Indians. I remember reading about this when they were trying during the 1600s, when they started to make colonies a lot there. When they were trying to negotiate if they could buy lands from the Indians. They didn't even have a concept of owning land.
Exactly.
So big confusion.
Yeah, and the idea of owning country, that comes from that papal bull. Then, since the Pope could give a greve or a jarl, the Pope, if the jarl said, I claim this property to take care of it with all these people in it, is it okay with you? Yes. And then he owned it, and then you can start to found cities and start marketplaces, and since it was okay by the Pope, so you had a written okay for ownership. So it's very connected to this papal bull from 1302, what you just mentioned about the Europeans and the Indians. And then that's my take on it, at least. And then another thing that Strömnäs found was that he was so pissed since he couldn't learn Finnish fluently. And he couldn't understand. He spoke 11 different languages, but Finnish he could make himself understood, but he understood at the same time that it wasn't really Finnish, the Finnish language then. And he found out that there are two major language groups on the planet, and they are building different geometries of models in the brain. So since we are speaking Swedish normally, now we are speaking English then, but they are both so-called Germanic languages. And they are built geometrically of a three-dimension model of the surrounding or of the omgivning. So I say that the cup is on the table. So everything is in three dimension. But all the other languages are more or less, they are mixes as well, but they are based on a two-dimensional geometrical model with a time aspect. So everything is more like pictures, while Germanic languages are in the space or in the room, so to speak, with three dimension. And that's really, really
this is
heavy stuff.
This is my area of study, for sure. Going back to this Finnish mythology all the time, but in that story it says also like this Frode is saying that there are two language groups. In one of you can actually find out which one belongs to the other via the counting system. Like in Swedish we have you count from 1 to 12, and then you start to 13, 14, 15, 16, and in the English it's the same, 11, 12, 13. It's also in this German with the saying 11 was elf 12 13. And
then you have some languages that are kind of in between. I don't know. French is very Germanic in some ways, but then not in others. So it's, but it's really, really interesting and he has a lot of elaboration, so to speak, or a lot of actual tests with people, and he actually proves that there is a connection between mother tongue and behavior. But he's only one scientist, so of course he doesn't say that it rules behavior, but it has some effect at least.
But that's very interesting. You can see the behavior of people in different countries are quite different, and
exactly.
Some people want to speculate that it might be a racial thing, but it could be like the language is the governing.
And that wouldn't that be really, really nice. So
Yeah.
it's not a racial thing, but it's a language thing. And then Froode is very, very careful, and I am too. It's not a question of good or bad. It's just understanding that the view of the surrounding of the world is very, very different, and it's hard to say what's good and bad. It's since it's just different.
You can see like, but it's just what I said. You know, it's a big difference in the behavior. But of course, it's about the information coming into the brain also. But
Yeah,
with that come words from that language
exactly. And the
also.
model they the words build geometric different models. So, for instance, he could prove that in in Germanic languages, especially in Swedish, you have to use a verb. I- eh, it doesn't matter how short a sentence you make. You have to have a verb. Something has to happen. Other is in the geometric space, so to speak. Otherwise, it has no meaning. But in these other type of languages, you can drop the verb and it still carries meaning. And for us, that's almost impossible to understand. But it's they find they have a different method of of solving that problem, so to speak. So Frode was very careful in just defining, are there even word classes? Does even verb exist to some, since they don't carry the same meaning in all languages. Really cool.
Or it has been turned, like they have been twisting the meaning, or the complete opposite is very common.
Not only in the meaning, but it's like substantive and verbs and adjectives and things. It's very different. They can be expressed differently in different language groups. So that's really interesting. So I carry on. So Frode is a great inspiration, and then a woman called Carol Dweck, also a also a psychologist, and her book Mindset. I have only the Swedish translation, and the du blir vad du tänker. You become what you think, and that's mainly based on two major views on how you how a person works, so to speak. Either you think that you're born into certain skills, and you have to, if you try something, you have to be an expert the first time. Otherwise, you are a terrible person and doesn't even shouldn't be alive to live. And the other way of looking at things is that you're constantly learning. So if you fail, it doesn't really matter that much. It's a way of learning. And her book states that you can influence how you look at situations in your life very, very much by training your mind, so to speak.
I can relate to this actually, but this is like a common quote actually. You become what you think, that is
Exactly,
flying
but she
around.
proves it, so to speak.
Okay, in that book.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we have Lisa Feldman Barrett, and she has proved that there is no the what can you call it? The plate of possible emotions a human being can experience is not at all built into the human being. There isn't any center in the brain or something with emotions. So emotions are very different between language groups. So it's not what earlier psychologists thought, some kind of basic feelings that every human being is born with, but it's extremely built in the language or in the society where you grew up, and that's also really cool. And then you have the fourth thing here, which is from the story or the Finnish mythology, where you have the sounds or the alphabete, which is then the behavior of the All-Father. And there it's back again. You have behavior from the sound, since bt in Swedish is behavior in English. So it's actually the Allfather's behavior that you get from
mimicking the king, or the one who sits on the top, so to speak.
Yeah.
That's a good breakdown.
So these things makes you think that, okay, if you can do this yourself, if you have an evil group of people and they know this, they can influence behavior of people using these methods, and without the language or the individuals in the society knowing, even understanding what's happening.
Exactly.
Next slide.
I need to take a quick break. I'll be quick. You can continue to talk a little bit if you like. This is quick.
No, but we take a break.
Take a short break.
Yeah.
Okay.
You cut it off, or how do we do this?
All right. Are you back, Fredrik?
I am.
That's nice. All right, we continue with the conclusion then.
Yeah. So, changing words in a language can then influence how people think, given the science or the conclusions from Carol Dweck. You can change how people think, you can change how they feel, and how people behave in the end, given Strömsnäs work. And that's really cool. And that means that people with bad intentions, so to speak, can do this, but also people with good intentions now.
Yeah.
You can do it individually as well.
It's interesting. You can see a lot of changes has been going on in the Swedish language.
Yeah.
Especially if you take like a Bible from the 1700s, some letter like an L can be like an H or something. It's
things like that. Yeah.
So to get it like back to like, we're so gifted with this thing that has been coming out from Finland, because then we have like a reference point to check this, and it's a study in itself, but
Yeah.
that's maybe
I
why we sound so a little
yeah.
a little different in our perspective on these things. But it's a very almost like with this alphabet, you can bet
Yeah.
like a hook. You can bet beta. Beta is also when you so you kind of get dragged into this. It's not a curse, but if you live in Sweden, you can start to see this is like an unraveling thing.
Yeah, it's built in everywhere. It's if you get if it gets you on the hook, so to speak.
Mm, and that's yeah, it's a curse in one
Yes,
way.
it is. And it's also you, Orson. No, not Orson Welles. Who wrote this 1984?
Um, should I go back or
No. The book 1984.
which book?
It's the very famous book 1984.
Well, I'm not sure.
Uh,
I don't know.
and the Animal Farm and
I'm not sure what you are thinking about. I haven't read any book that is titled that.
Come on, you must have.
Nope. Okay, are we gonna just skip ahead?
Yeah.
I think you pointed this out very clear. Okay, 4 ways to change language.
Yeah, George Orwell. Yeah, sorry.
George Orwell.
Yeah, he says like this. He has said like this. When you're thinking about an object, you're thinking without words. And that's kind of true. When you're thinking about it, you just have the model in your head, and then it's just when you have to describe it either with writing or telling someone else, you have to start using the words. Otherwise, it's just the model, so to speak. So so even he was into this. Well, next, here we have 4 ways to change the language. Then it's invention of new words. Stop usage of words, and you can have introduce new definitions, and you can change the spelling of a word.
Yeah.
And that's what I tried to do here. Actually, it's nothing else. I just if I change if the language is changed, it could then have an effect on language. No, sorry, on behavior, and that would be really cool.
And the best way to change language is through written, actually, because
Yeah.
if you have a more oral society when people are speaking to each other more than in the writing, because you are in this little bubble when you read,
Yeah.
it's much more in the surrounding aspect when you have to communicate. I can see it's much harder to infiltrate or do anything with language not by the book.
Exactly. If it's only spoken, it's very hard to change something.
But over time, of course.
Yeah. But the very advanced society that we have today, with countries and contracts about free trade and banking systems and all kinds of things, would be impossible without written language.
But that was the thing about this written, and also with the change of how this bolag should look like, for an example.
Yeah.
That it's a money. It gives more money to have one certain system over another in society. You could say.
Yes.
Yeah, and this Catholic way, they wanted as much money they could get.
Exactly. So it is to a huge extent a taxation system.
Yeah.
Since everyone had to all of a sudden give money to this guy on this organization based in Rome.
And probably not been getting anything back.
No, they were if they paid, God was pleased, so they could carry on living.
Exactly.
It's a hell of a system, you could say.
The early Christianity with the Catholic version must have been horrible to live under. I think with the Protestant, maybe they could at least get something back with the new state and all that. It's
Yeah. So maybe it was a step that had to be taken, but
yeah,
in my opinion, we have to do something again
yeah,
rather soon.
yeah.
And
You
that's
can
what
see
this
the
big
world
book
is
is about.
burning.
Yeah. So we can have the next slide.
At least it's nice to talk about these things, even though we don't have all the answers. But it's a snowball effect. I think if you see, at least to have some kind of perspective, and I mean, who should do this? Who should think about these things? And I think it's a collective thing almost to get a lot
Yeah,
of smarter people together and yeah,
exactly. And you have to
thinking to get
uh,
R.
exactly. And as I was working in the banking industry, and also when I was in my education there with as a science student, it's all about problems. I have put so much time into solving problems.
Mm.
And if you do that all the time, so to speak, you you, you get into it, and then in the end, if you are actually responsible for solving the problem, then you realize, hell, I have to know what the problem is, otherwise I can't solve it.
Mm.
And if you solve problems all the time and you solve a lot of problems, you get into it, so to speak, and you start trusting yourself that um, and then if you get into a lot of problems and a lot of people telling you about their problems, and then you also get the feeling for what is a problem. Maybe it's just a belief in some person that a certain thing should work a certain way, but then it obviously doesn't. So it's more maybe your way of solving the problem is actually just informing the person in question that well, your belief is not correct. It doesn't work the way you think. It works like this, and then they are hopefully then very happy. Oh, I have thought this was such a problem, but then it isn't actually, since I got the wrong idea.
But you are coming from inside of this system very deep, so it's nice to see someone who comes from the inside and actually knows what he's talking about. It's more like a I know that's a way, experience is everything in my
It
eyes.
is. It is. It
So
is. Yeah.
to have experience in this, and yeah, I think it's a great thing you did this. Even though this might be hard to understand, it's very technical if you ask me, but uh, we live in a complex world
Yeah, we do.
also.
But then if you if you if you have solved the problem and you have to explain it to someone that obviously doesn't know at all the same uh, doesn't have the same experience and the same deep knowledge as you do, you have to explain it in an easier way. You have to make an easier model for them to understand
Yeah,
so that they can follow you.
I'm sure there will be people who really get what you're saying here. I know the I have no clue how it looks like on the inside of the banking system, but I have a brief overview. You can
Yeah.
see the results of all of this at least.
Yeah, and also one thing to really remember is that uh, almost all people everywhere are really, really nice people. It's just that a lot of people, they are doing what they were educated to do, so to speak. Uh, so everything more or less has to continue as it does. Otherwise, a lot of people get out of work, and that's not really nice. So you have to, yeah, you don't. For me, it's not enough to just point to the problem. You have to give some kind of solution to it as well. So it's what
Exactly.
I try to do with this book is first show a problem that no one really thinks exists, and then giving the explanation that this is actually a problem,
But
and
it's a
then
new
solving
perspective.
it.
It's
Sorry.
nice. It's nice to have a new little footnote to investigate also. If you, I can I can see that a lot of people has been trying to, to see what the problem is,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
really are frustrated, but there's not so much of a solution.
No.
Often it's just a power grab. We need to change government. We need to do that, and we redo that.
And then
But
it
now it's
carries
like
on
a
as
new
before.
idea, like a new way of looking at how everything is structured in relation with the economy, because the economy is like, it is very important, but
Yes.
people are so fed up with this today that
Yeah.
they don't even
Yeah,
want to
but
take a loan and buy a
exactly,
house or
and
anything.
I say, since we have such an advanced society today, we can't really go from this to no money in a weekend, since it's really dangerous to just turn off a power plant,
Yes, and the nuclear plant.
or start tearing it down with bulldozers. It's scary. It's dangerous. You have to know what to do, and you have to pay people for it. It's not just tearing it down. So it
No.
has to do with, we have to have some alternative model to take care of the valfrihet, or the freedom of choice that both we and the people before us have used.
Yeah, but it comes another problem too, because I'm thinking about this. We were talking about how people are becoming unrooted from the reality also.
Yeah.
But we are maybe coming to this a little bit later with the economy and the ecology and all that. With the how
Yeah,
it's
sure.
related.
Yeah, sure. Continue.
Okay.
So today we have a system then where the bolag, and it's based on a lot of words that coming from one certain model of how the money system works. So in this picture we have uh, in the bolag and the total circulation of stuff between people, you could say. You have words like skuld, debt. You have pengar or money. You have bolag, corporations. You have frihandel or free trade agreements then between different countries. You have this economy, which is the same in English then, economy. You have hushållning, or taking care of stuff that already exists, or household, take care of your household. And then you have this Sverige, or Sweden in English, the 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 country, so to speak, with limits and somewhere. So you have a set of words that are connected to the money system, and all around it is circulation of, so to speak, of money. We have the banking system, which is then in a little deeper gray here, banksystemet, the banking system. So how does this model really work, and how is it connected to us, and what can we do about it? Yeah, next. So a very, very profound word in this model is skuld, or debt. And if you read David Graeber's Debt, the first 5,000 years, you see that as long as we have had written language, debt has been a very important concept. And debt is one thing in English, but then in Swedish we have the word skuld. But skuld is many things in Swedish. It's both debt when it comes to money, and it's also that you owe someone something, and
You can be guilty.
exact, and guilty. It's the same word in Swedish, and something that this anthropologist, or what's this called, anthropolog, David Graeber shows is that a word like debt, tends to spread into different areas of society. So if we have it today, we have people can feel debt about things that happen in other parts of the world hundreds of years ago, and you can have debt for flying, and you can have feel guilt for all kinds of things that you haven't really done. So this heavy debt or the heavy skuld has this effect on the reality egg. It gets reshaped, you could say.
It's interesting.
And if you have debt or skuld, you're not rest. You're not in rest, not in peace. You have inte rest, not in peace. Inte in Swedish is not. So you have inte rest. You have no rest. And interest is what you pay on money. It's ränta in Swedish.
Yeah, the fine.
Exactly. Exactly.
That goes
the
to
cost
the bank.
of money.
Yeah, it can be 1% or 50.
Yes. Exactly. Next.
Is that the only way the banks are making money on the interest?
No. And the thing to remember, the bank is always the middleman. They are always in between. So they are not really. They are always just. So if you say that the church in some way was the middleman between the skuld or the guiltiness, so to speak, of the population and God. The church was in between, handling people's debt or guilt. Today that has been taken over by the bank. So now the bank is between the debt and the people. So that if you're buying stocks, for instance, you more or less have to do that through the banking system. They are on the market. They
are putting money in circulation there.
Yeah, as well. So they are creating the money. You have to, I have a picture of that a little later. You have to remember that the bank is always just the middleman.
Yeah. Are we taking the next?
Yep. So here is just the same picture, you could say. We have a circulation of everything happening in the society, and all around it we have this banking system.
Gluing it together.
Yeah.
Next?
We can have the next. And now they have this magic word, economy, which is actually introduced into the Swedish language in 1566. And that's just after Gustav Vasa dies and Erik is the king. And this is just a few years after a very interesting book was published in Venice. And that was the first book on bookkeeping, where we use this Venetian double bookkeeping, which is the only way to produce bookkeeping today, I would say, where you have a balance sheet and a result sheet.
All right. It's nice you bring the historical perspective. I love that.
So it's really, and that was introduced as a way for the banks, so to speak, to know how, let's say, a shipping company was actually performing. So it was a way for the bank to know if they should give more loans or not. So as I see it, it only took I think that that bookkeeping book was published in, let's say, in the early 1500s, like 1532 or something. And then it didn't take more than a few decades then to take that idea, the model, up to national level.
Okay.
So you put you in between the population of an entire country and their debt instead of the Pope. So I think that was actually what happened when Gustav Vasa broke with the Pope. He must have had some kind of assistance, I would say, to do all the paperwork
Of course.
against the Pope to explain what he was doing actually.
Oh,
And that perhaps came from Venice. It's absolutely not written in any history book that I have seen, at least. But there is this guy. I don't know. He's not so public anymore on the internet. Franco Collins. He was really deep into this, but I think he's taken all his sites down, and yeah, it's really, I don't know what happened.
Maybe he got attacked. You can see that's common today.
Yeah.
But just the word economy, are we gonna break that down in the presentation here? Or?
Yeah, not now actually, but if you look in a Swedish word explanation book, it says that it comes from the Greek words oikonomos, and that can be translated to house and guardian or something. So it's more the one guarding the house, or holding the house, you could say. But in Swedish, you could say that it's a bolag that holds the house. So with the Greek translation, it's very close to bolag, and that's what economy has turned into. It's the laws concerning bolags or legal entities in a book. You have to have everything is registered. You have the country of Sweden is registered, the city of Stockholm is registered, all the corporations, all the are registered, all the law houses, or that everything has to be registered at the tax authority.
Yeah.
And all our people as well. So you have personal numbers.
Yeah, we had that even, like, put records on people since the 1500s. Yeah.
Exactly, and we still have. So that's all part of this corporate corporate layer of the world that was yet again defined or formalized in 1302 in this papal bull.
Very interesting.
So we still that's also very something to really remember here. It has taken 1,000 years in our part of the world to get into this situation. So if I now have an idea or a model of a modified economic system, maybe it will take more than 4 weeks to implement it. Since it has taken 1,000 years to get into this position. So they have been working a lot with the minds of the people living here.
Well, that's I know from this, yet again, this Finnish mythology, that they had 2 languages for a reason. That the governing language was this Germanic language, and the language that most people, almost all people around the head or the governing in the Aser, it's from they made up like this Van language, which is the Finnish today, but it was the root or the Aser language that like created these words.
Exactly, was the basis for it.
Yeah. So they like put this in circulation. So the language in itself is like the controller of the entire body. You have a head and a body, and the Aser language is the head, and this Van language, the Vaner people, they spoke this Finnish language. But those in Asgård or Aser, they understood both languages, of course. So that's just a little. So it has to do like not with control, but leading people also.
Yeah, and if you have good intentions, then it may be fine. Then perhaps, I don't know. To me, I think it's maybe as much as possible should be known to as many as possible. But if you have good intentions, maybe you don't think that's wise. But if you then have ill intentions and you know all these things, you can make a mess of everything,
Yeah,
which is obvious if you look around yourself.
especially when you flip sounds, that one is very positive to
Exactly.
become one very negative, or in association. It's always
Yeah.
the association that is being lost or
Yeah.
turned.
Yeah. We should carry on. So we have now the in the middle we have the reality egg that is based on your true senses, your five senses, and then you have a vocabulary or a model including several words that comes from the economic system. So in Swedish we have here the bank, the free trade economy, the country Sweden. You have money, you have interest, and you have debt. And then you have, of course, a word that I haven't written out here, and that's tax. Or we use the word backwards in Sweden, skatt. The IRS or the Skatteverket in Swedish. What they actually do is it was founded, of course, by Gustav Vasa, I presume, or Erik.
Yeah, some of them.
Yeah, and that was, as I see it was since they were the first to invent this new kind of money where you have gold or something as the basis, and then you create a different kind of money based on this true asset, so to speak, and then you pay interest on that money, and then you have your entire population to pay for it, so to speak, to pay for the cost for the money, and that was the origin for the tax. This new
Yeah, we had
taxation
gold
system.
standard, right? That was like and I know that America
Yeah,
took that principle too,
yeah,
in the beginning at least.
yeah, and it's also really cool that the money or our Swedish crowns, they were called dollar before, and now they use dollar in the US. So it's
Yeah, but the Swedes had some fingers in the creation of America, actually.
absolutely, yeah. We carry on. It's just saying that, and also it's very interesting to since all these words that are based in this external system, they are very far from an individual human being, since you cannot control the bank. The bank is external from you. You have nothing to do with a free trade negotiation or a free trade agreement, since a lot of people, some people perhaps, are actually doing the trading, but most of us are just giving our energy to produce something else. It could be a painting, music, uh, a part of a car or whatever, but we are mostly giving them, and then someone else is doing the trading. So we are quite far from the actual trading. And then the economy, the rules for economy, we are not included. Someone else is just defining this is how much it should be. This is interest, and this is deflation, and this is inflation. And then the country of Sweden, we don't really know. We haven't. We are part of the population, or we are living on this part of the globe that someone else is calling Sweden. So it's quite far from us as well. And then money, we don't really know where they come from and how they are created and where they are going. And then we have this cost of money, the interest or renta, which we are not deciding how much that should be or not. And then we have this debt concept or skuld that someone else is just giving us, and we can hopefully then decide, no, I am not guilty of that. You can give that guilt to someone else. But it's also something that someone else is trying to put into our reality. So all these words, as I see it, are from an outside model that we are not part of, actually, but we are forced to live in a reality where these words are very prominent.
It's interesting. In the Bible, in the Swedish version, it said, "Du är född med skuld."
Yeah,
You are born into debt.
exactly.
Or
And that's if you really want to believe that, so of course you can do that. But I want to make a 180.
yeah,
and and I'm not. What could that be then? Is it absolute freedom? But since I have to walk around on this planet, around things that other peoples have done before me. There are roads, there are houses, there are. So how. I'm not 100% free. I have to accept that I am in a physical body, and I can't really walk through houses or walls or so. But I have my freedom of choice. So I would say that in my model, in the 180, from death would be freedom of choice.
That's a. I think
So I am born with the freedom of choice.
exactly instead of just a.
Death. Exactly.
Because now they even talk about how much a money costs to raise, so you only put a number or a debt mentality on people
Exactly.
straight from the beginning almost.
Yeah.
You have to pay
Yeah.
back to your parents.
Yeah.
Should we proceed?
Yes, please.
Okay, Thomas
So
Jefferson.
here is a quote. I can read it. It's from Thomas Jefferson, and one of the founding fathers of the U.S. So he must have written it in the end of the year 1700s, since 1776 was the Freedom War then in the U.S. So he was the second president of the U.S. Here is what he writes. If the American people ever allow private banks to control the issue of their currency, first by inflation, then by deflation, the banks and corporations that will grow up around them will deprive the people of all property until their children wake up homeless on the continent their fathers conquered. Whew, that's pretty tough. And first of all, then, there's always some individual that says, no, he didn't really write that. And it wasn't on that day he wrote it. But to me, that really, I don't care. If it wasn't Thomas Jefferson, then what the hell? But if someone wrote something like this, and it has now 250 years later obviously became true,
Of course.
then what did he mean?
We see the results of it today.
We see the results. He was true.
I don't know how long the bank. I know that we had like a central bank that was owned by the state.
Yeah,
Not
but
by any corporation.
I think Thomas Jefferson was knew about how we had it, and the Bank of England and Bank of I don't know what it's called in France, and he did not want that system.
Okay.
Since the thing is, we will show her in the short little movie that I have prepared what actually happens, and that's what you have to remember also, that nothing really exists except human beings, and they can form corporations or bolag, but it's always people running them. So even if Monsanto, so to speak, or the new, since Monsanto was sold, I think, to Bayer, if they are doing some genetic tests on the fish outside Hawaii, and then the Hawaiian people say they have a referendum saying that no, Bayer has to go away with their stupid fish testing here, and then Bayer can take them to court and say no, it was illegal to have a referendum about this issue. Then you have to remember that Monsanto or Bayer isn't really a living thing. It's actual people behind it.
Yeah, that you can see. People are hiding behind like corporation that dies.
Exactly.
But the people behind it are not responsible.
Yeah, exactly. And then you can carry on, so to speak. If everyone had to have their true property with them, so to speak, it would have to change hands when you die physically. But since the corporation is a dead entity, you can put the stuff in
corpus.
it and then live through it. And that's what actually happens. Since if you have a bank and you will obviously make huge amounts of money, what can you do with it? You can't really. It will be obvious what's happening. So you have to start a different corporation where you shovel this money into, and then you start buying the things from the people that you have sucked the life force out of earlier. So it's really, really terrible.
But it's in the name, this with the corporation,
Exactly.
corporation. It's
Yeah.
something
So
to do
so
with the
it is
corpse.
a dead body, you could say.
Blameless.
Yeah. Yeah. So here I'm just showing that every human being can influence their reality egg. If I want to, I can rehearse or exercise my hearing so that it becomes not as good as your hearing, of course, but it can be at least better, so I can be more of a musician than I am now. And
Yeah.
the way to change your reality egg is exercising your freedom of choice. You have to give energy to improve.
Exactly.
You have to study or you have to exercise physically. No one is born Zlatan Ibrahimovic, not
No.
even him, or he of course. But to perform as Ronaldo or Zlatan, you have to put enormous effort into it.
I know in the previous system we nurtured this very highly with the
Mm.
tour friend, like when you exchange nature gifts, so to speak,
Exactly.
for 3 years, and then you proceed with new people, but it's about people giving to each other the gifts of talent, so to
Yeah,
speak.
really nice model.
Yeah.
Next. So what should this, if we should change the currency system, what should be the basis for the currency? Historically, according to this David Graeber and his book Debt, the first 5-10 years, it could be precious metals like gold, silver, copper, but that has always historically been used during war times. Otherwise, some sort of credit system has been used. A means of or
That's
token of
interesting.
exchange has actually never been found to be used as currency. It's what you think perhaps that there have been 3 different basis for currency, but there's actually historic evidence for only 2. So precious metals during wartime and credit during peace-like times.
So this make people hungry for war.
no, no, but that's something we will. I will show a little why precious metals is very poor as a basis for currency in a living society or a growing society, of course. But yeah, we can continue. So here is the problem, as I see it, with using a finite resource as a basis for currency. You have above the line here with 50 years, you have the initial point, you could say. You have a little farm with three åkrar, what do you call it? 3 farmlands, you could say. And you have a small house, and you're burning some wood to make your food. And the total amount of gold in the society or in the country makes that the value of this property is 1 gold, or with the current exchange rate, it's 100 money. And then society in peacetime then uses the invention of people's enormous creative power, and whoops, 50 years later you have electricity cable coming into a house, which is, in this picture, is it 10 times bigger, and you have a second house also that big. Parts of the field is now planted with spruces. You have two inventions, 2 cars parked on the land. So the property itself has a lot more stuff in it. You have electricity, you have many houses, and you have several cars, and you know what you have. So in the initial period, you had 1 gold, and if you don't go to war with some other country and take their gold, so to speak, your gold is constant, the amount of gold. So how should you now price this new reality with many houses and many cars based on the same amount of gold? Should it still be priced at 100 money? Well, that means that the house must have a very low level compared to the house 50 years earlier, since you're not allowed to create more money, even though the society has grown immensely. So you have to start fiddling with the exchange rate between gold and money to be able to represent the new value with the same amount of gold.
It's just I'm just thinking how it works today, how they print up more money. Just
Yeah, but that so as I see it, so today we have credit-based money, and that's actually excellent. Since if you saw in my house that I had on that picture earlier, the vertical lines, they are actually made from copper. So since copper is not is not the basis for money, I can use it for as a building material. If it was made money from it, I had to compete for building actual things with the amount of money in the country, and that to me that's kind of unnecessary. It's a lot better to have a free widget, so to speak, that is doesn't influence anything else in the society. If using copper, I couldn't I couldn't make a house of it, but now I can, since it's not the basis for money. So it's a lot better to have a something a standalone widget for money.
yeah, so you don't pay with logs for your
Exactly.
for your house that is supposed to be built by logs.
Exactly. or exactly, or gold or whatever. Since now your society can grow without stealing gold from someone else.
Yeah.
And then we have a second problem, since we have credit-based systems now. If we should go back to using precious metal, okay, where the hell is the precious metal now? Who has it? And how much is there? Maybe they were lying like 50 years ago. So there isn't, and now it will only be a lot of problem, and then it will be fiddling with the with the measurements, and no. I think it's a lot better to have something else. And on the other hand, what gives anything value anyway in human society? Why should gold have any value? There isn't any intrinsic or value of gold. Just like with feelings, according to Lisa Barrett, nothing has any built-in value. That's
It's just a
a
concept.
false idea. It's a false idea, simply.
I'm thinking gold is a perfect way to have like small coins, like in the system I talked about earlier, because it's something that is nice to look at, the aesthetic, for the aesthetic part. And
Yeah, but you can never, you see here from this picture, that you can never grow society.
no,
Or moreover, you cannot decrease it either. Let's say in 20 years or something, the people living then, they don't want this the nuclear power plants. What should they do? All the gold is already used for the money that they have, so they can't. They want to get rid of the nuclear plant. They want to destruct it and plant trees instead, and that requires work from someone. And they should, according to me, then be paid honestly for it. So then the people wanting to have a field or a wood a forest instead of the power plant, they have to create new money to pay the people who will actually do the work. And then and that's perfectly fine in my model. You can create new money for someone to do something, and then as long as they do it, you will just have a contract telling you at what speed you should kill the money that you created for that thing. So if you make a car, for instance, that you suspect to be living or be in existence for 20 years, then you can create new money to be able to buy the car, but then you have to make sure that you kill money at the same rate as you are using the car. So if the car will be with you for 20 years, then you should kill the amount of money during a lifespan of 20 years.
All right. I see what you're getting at. This is like.
There must be a balance. The things that we believe have value must be possible to must have that value in money, at least. Of course, you don't have to create new money for every new car. You can pay it with money that you have worked in altogether. So it's possible to have, so to speak, more money than value. You understand. You don't have to create. You can have more value than money, but you can't really have more. It's the really important thing is that you follow the contracts that you sign up.
But I'm thinking like this entire economy system. It's like maybe we come into that, but how it's based on everything that comes from nature. So I'm thinking like if you have like coins or something, it's just representing a value. If you say like there's a fisherman who wants a cabin built, and at the same time he's producing something for people that he can buy. So maybe if he sells for 10 years fish, then he can pay people or to come and help him build or something. It's I don't know how to. This is getting so complex for me, but I'm just thinking very natural here that the exchange has to be in nature from the beginning, like food and the people sewing and this basic stuff like that everyone needs in a society, right?
Yeah, but I understand what you are getting at, but then I don't want to be the new pope, so to speak, telling people what's good and bad, and they must ask me before they can, and I will be the judge. No, that's bad. That's not that's not allowed. So the thing is that everyone has to be allowed to give energy to whatever they want, even if it's not nothing in nature, so to speak. It could be if you're developing a computer program or something. You can't really see it, and no one perhaps really knows where the fucking code is physically.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this too. It's all this in the fourth dimension is also costing money that are coming from the fifth dimension, you call it.
Exactly. Yes.
That's the problem today with, like, you can see Spotify is a big company that is earning so much money, but it's all software. It's just in the thin air, so to speak.
Exactly.
But
to me,
yeah.
that's perfectly fine. It's just that.
But it's a new aspect.
The super smart thing with credit is that the fisherman that you said, if he just can prove that he is a skilled fisherman, he can build the house now and then pay for it as he goes, as he used it.
Yeah.
Instead of first getting gold from someone that has gold when he has nothing and then build it. It's not necessary to have such an economic system. Yeah, we can take the next.
We obviously don't have that today.
Throat. Sorry?
It obviously doesn't work that today. People taking loans so they can, they show their, they need to show their this paper on the job that you have, and so you can get granted that he seems to be able to pay over this amount of time. So that's how it works today.
Yeah, and I think that's very good.
It is fine.
I'm not saying anything about the procedure on how to create money. I think the procedure we have today of creating new money is excellent. there is another problem.
Okay.
We get to that here. Next picture.
Okay.
Yeah, here. Uh, we speak a little about this picture, and then maybe you can show that little move I did.
Okay.
We can talk about movie.
After this.
So yeah, so here is what actually happens when all money is created. We saw when I listed the problems in the very beginning that the world economy as such grows, and the income per capita grows, and that means that if the income grows, it means that people get more money, and that means that more money is created. So it's not a closed system where we have a finite amount of money, then everything couldn't grow. So if the economy grows and the amount of the salary grows, it must mean that more money is created. And since it's only one party that's creating money, and that's the banking system, it means that they must be creating the money, even if they say that we loan them. But somehow in the banking system as such, it must be created. Even if perhaps the local bank where we enter, they perhaps have been taking a loan to give it to us. But in the banking system as a whole, they must be creating the money. Otherwise, it couldn't be more.
No.
And it's only they who create money, so it must be the banking system that creates this new money.
But America is a good example. Don't they have like a separate bank from, like do they have like a national bank in America, or how does it work?
Yeah. So Sweden, every country has a national bank. That's and this is really cool. Using the words then. The head of all the central banks is called the Bank for International Settlements, BIS. And if you pronounce BIS in Swedish, what do you get?
BIS.
No, not you pronounce the English sounds of BIS, but you say it in Swedish.
You go ahead.
Bajs.
Shit.
And that's shit or fecalia. So it's not it's not always nice. So this is what happens when you enter the bank. Who's banking at the bank? You enter with your freedom of choice, your valfrihet, on your side of the desk. But on the bank, they are handing out guilt or debt. That's what they. And if you get approval with your freedom of choice, they give you guilt. They give you debt. You say you want to loan money, but then you get out of the bank with a skuldebrev, a debt letter, some kind of contract based on debt. So you want money, but you get out of there with debt or skuld. And that's a real trick. So money today is debt. It is skuld. And together with the contract, you create a certain amount of pengar or money, and a certain amount, the same amount. The circles are the same size there. So the money and the debt have the equal size when you leave the bank. And all the money is created the same way. It doesn't matter if it's the government or anyone. Everyone has to enter the bank, ask for money, and then they give it to you. So it has to be one human being signing some contract. Otherwise, there is no more money. So saying that money today is created out of nothing is, to me, not correct. Since there has to be a population, there has to be people taking on new debt, and they have to sign contracts. So it's signing contracts and having debt that's creating today's money. Maybe you have to think about it for a while, but it's a mental thing.
I see it completely. It's just an illusion, but we buy into it with a contract, right?
Exactly, but it's actually what it is. If you it's a money contract is a very specific contract. A normal avtal or a contract, both parties actually put something to the stake. If I borrow a cow from you, so to speak, you actually give me the cow, and so you're borrowing me the cow, or lending me the cow, and I have to take care of it for the time that we have said, maybe 2 years, and I should give you back a cow and a calf.
Mm.
So both of us entering the contract have something at stake. So both of us can break the contract. And if you say after 1 year already, no, I have to have my cow back, and then I say, no, you're breaking the contract. Now you are in debt to me, even though it was you that it was your cow actually, but you still can break the contract. But when it comes to money, you are in debt directly from the get-go, since it is a contract of debt. It is debt from the beginning to end. So it's a mental trick.
Mm.
Yeah, now we look at that little picture.
It really is like you're getting owned by the bank in one way. You are just a property that has value, and you are the value in that system.
Exactly. And then you have a legal system based on contract law. So the lawyers or the legal people, they look at the contract and they say, yes, this is legal, but obviously it isn't. And then you have the economists, and they say, yes, this is economy, this is how it works. No, yes, it does so now, but we have to change it. Look around you. Nothing works. We have to have new basis for it. And this is, can you show that little movie?
Sure.
So now we have been at the bank, and we have two papers here of different colors. We have one paper is now indicating the money, or pengarna, it's written here, and the other paper with the orange, slightly orange color, is the debt. It's good. So they are obviously then of equal size. And this is, you can think of this as the first money ever created by a central bank and then handed out to a population, or you can see it as your latest loan for a motorcycle or whatever you have been taking loans on. So initially, the amount of money and the amount of debt, so to speak, are equal. And now on the outer part of the sheet, it's written återbetalning, or more repayment. You're paying back some amount of money, and at the same time, the debt is then supposed to decrease. And then you have something else that you also pay, and that's interest, or the fee for the money.
Avgift.
Avgift, or ränta, which is forbidden in all religion. And here we see why soon. So you make your first repayment. So the debt is decreased, and the amount of money, the total amount of circulation in a country is also decreased with the amount of repayment. And then you also pay this fee, or the renta, the interest. And now try to have the amount of money cover the debts.
Doesn't work that way.
It's impossible. So every payment of renta or interest makes a whole, or makes the difference between debt and amount of money, the total circulation of money, spread, so to speak. So the more money you have, the more money you pay back, the more interest you pay, the bigger the difference between amount of money in the total circulation and the debts. So now it's no wonder we are talking about debt mountains and debt and how to pay back the debts and things. It's impossible. We don't have the money. The people having the debts don't have the money to pay them. So something has to be done. And this is why these groups, the World Economic Forums and things, thinking about this great reset. They have stolen enough from us, they think. So now something is going to be reset here. And given the recent political state in Sweden and every other Western country, you see that the only purpose of the government or the political structure is to have the people continue to paying for the money. There is this economist called Martin Armstrong. He estimates that in the Western world, the amount, the cost for the money is approximately 70% of all costs in society. Is simply the cost of money. So the political establishment have to continue, have the people, the population continue paying for the money. It's not only the new money. In our part of the world, this has been going on then for 500 years. So the difference between our total circulation of money and the debt has increased since for the last 500 years. And there's no way in hell we can repay it, since there is no money there to be able to pay it back. So the government then has to invent new markets to be able to monetize more and more parts of society. So we have water power plants, we have elderly homes, we have telecommunication that were, when I was a child, absolutely owned by the government or various regional groups or so. There were no market for producing electricity in Sweden. But since the amount of money simply runs out, since all the money has to be used to pay the debts, the government itself has to create new markets so that more of what is publicly owned has there should be a market for it, so that it can be privately owned, so that the people owning the banks can have different companies paying the population's common assets.
It's exactly like the Thomas Jefferson quote.
Exactly.
He predicted
so
it.
the problem is not that the money is based on credit. The problem is the fee for the money.
This is starting to wrap this into my head a little bit as we go here now. This is such a vast subject.
Yeah, and so if you have the small movie with you in your head, that you have when you get the money, the yellow paper and the orange paper are the same size, and then you start paying back and you pay the fee, and all of a sudden directly you have a difference between the total amount of money and the total debt, and there is no other money that can be used to pay the debt than all the money. So you can, instead of saying the money, you can say all the money and all the debt. It doesn't matter what you you have. That's what you have to get into your head. The problem is not that you have a local landlord taking too high fees for staying in his house. That's of course quite bad. But if you take it on the national level, so that every piece of money ever created has to be paying this fee to them, just to the middleman, and they are not producing the same amount of work that they are charging for, then society will get destructive. we can take a view on how it will look in my in my suggestion that I write about in my book then. So we should have a different mental model for these things.
I see. Is it in the PowerPoint?
Yes, the next PowerPoint, yeah. So instead of going to the bank, we're going to the stomme. Stomme is the construction that you have when building a house. I think it's called body in English.
Foundation also, right? No?
Yeah, it's not the actual basic, but the entire frame of the
frame,
house.
the framework.
Yeah, the framework. So you go to the framework, and you can be part of the framework, and you enter the bank using your freedom of choice, just like you do today. But instead of handing out debt or skuld, we have made a 180. So they are handing out freedom of choice. So if they accept your freedom of choice, just like they do today, they give you okay to create new widgets of money. So instead of having some kind of debt letter, you have a freedom of choice letter.
All right.
Indicating at what rate you should be paying back the new widget back to the stomme, since it's actually a loan. Since I don't have the money to create a house on the picture earlier, I take a loan based on my freedom of choice and my honesty to repay as I go, as I use the house. And I don't use the word money anymore or pengar for the widgets. I call them omgivare. So it's about giving again. You could say that the English word would be
giving back.
Omgivare. It's actually not really giving back, since these widgets are supposed to circulate between us in society. So it's about giving them again and again and again to other people.
It's a natural thing also to pay back when someone helps you.
Exactly.
So, but this is based on the honesty also a lot, and
exactly. But just like it is today.
But it brings also people maybe a bit closer. I think, especially if you go back, I think this is a more natural way that we have been doing things, like gentjänster. What do we call tjänster och gentjänster? Giving back.
Yeah, and the most important thing is not what you actually get back, but that you are improving yourself, or that you are giving your energy to something else, or to yourself. It's not what you can take or what you receive that's the important thing. It's what you give yourself. And together with this freedom of choice letter and the omgivare, it's also the total amount of valfrihet, or it's not the debt that is increasing, but the used freedom of choice, so to speak.
Okay.
So when this gets going then, and you start repaying your omgivare, or your the valfrihet decreases, and you are following the contract. So when the house is no more, you should have repaid all the money, and hence the valfrihet is also decreased. So it's a balanced system. You have to have a balance. You can't pay a fee for the widget. That's simply not. It doesn't work. It's not sustainable.
Okay.
Yeah, we can have the next. So I use different words then for things, since just looking at this picture, which board is for cutting fish? Well, it's obvious. You can build in. You can pick the name from the usage, so to speak. It's like the bolag in Swedish, and instead of using this Latin word corporation, it's a lot easier to understand what it is if it has its proper name, so to speak. Maybe the money in English would be called OMG or something, for omgivare. OMGs. Yeah, we can take the next. We can take this one, the last one. We can take next picture instead. So I have the suggestion for the set of words making up the current model should be shifted for other words, for new words, or we should change the language in the following ways. Then, so they use bank for the river bank, just the bank being responsible for the flow of the river. Instead, we shouldn't have this middleman, the bank. It should instead be a stomme, or the foundation. What did we call it? The body. You see here on the picture it's from the movie Witness. Actually, you can see that a lot of people are taking parts in building this framework. And that's where we get our freedom of choice, from the framework, from the stomme.
I think this is a good point with
we can take the next picture. So instead of and then instead of using this terrible word or debt, which have this cause that the young female there feeling debt. She's just really exhausted, seeing no way out, just this will never be solved, blah, blah, blah. We should stop using that word and changing everything that has to do with debt, 180, and instead use this valfrihet, or freedom of choice. We can simply walk away or continue with others. We can do whatever we like.
I think that brings, you can see people get like, if they get the freedom, often people tend to still do something, you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's
but it should be. Of course, since you're living in a society, you can't just create money and then start, I don't know, investigating your own neighbor. It's just not. That's not what a human life is intended for. You should improve yourself, and then ideally, you should be. It should be possible for others to see how good you are and whatever it is.
If you don't have the freedom to develop,
you should be of good use to others, so to speak.
Yeah, we don't even have the freedom to develop our true nature gifts, so to speak, either today. No, you know, you have to take that job as soon as as possible,
and you have to continue paying the debt.
It doesn't matter, and it doesn't matter what. It destroys the inventionist also of people.
Absolutely. Yeah, we look at the next word. So instead of using the word pengar, then that simply gets drained into some black hole somewhere, we should use this omgivare, some kind of perpetuum mobile here, where you give and give and give again. And they are, of course, they are without cost, the money, but they should, since they are a loan, since everything is a loan and everything, you should be paying them back as in the same rate as you use whatever object that the money was created for.
I think the picture there to the right is a good.
Sorry?
The picture down up to the right there is a good what do you call, not a symbol, almost a symbol for what you're talking about.
Yeah. Since I can give endlessly. I focus on something, or I read something, or I give my energy to something, or I work physically. So I am giving all the time, even though I'm not giving away my T-shirt to someone else that I meet on the street, but I'm giving my focus.
Oh.
And that's something that I do all the time. So I want the society to be built as a prolongation of myself.
I see.
Yeah. So next. So then we have this structure Sverige, which is then a legal structure, and some part of the word. But this model that I try to explain is actually not based on the land itself. It's more in the mind. So instead of spelling it Sverige, you spell it Sverige. So you pronounce Sverige, Sverige, and you pronounce it Sverige, Sverige. So it's instead of being a part of the world, a physical part of the world, it becomes a mental state. You swear to
Hmm.
give your focus, or give your energy, or give your yeah,
I
in
see your
whatever
point.
situation
And svär
it
is
may be.
also one sphere, like you have been putting into the
Yeah,
pictures. Not one svär
exactly.
av giving, alltså regering almost.
Exactly. So the language itself seems to be very much based on giving.
Yeah, it's. I think it's the foundation of a good blueprint to build a civilization
Yeah.
that is built into the Swedish language.
Yeah. We
Because
take the next picture.
it's about the a lot about the collective.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And of course, you as an individual. Yeah, I think that this Lisa Barrett, the psychologist, who says that all feelings are created. She says something like, it takes more than one human being to create a sense. So what you see, kind of, you have to know what the color green is based on what other people think is the color green. I think it is Russian that has some more word for blue, or something. They don't have the same frequency for where the difference between blue and green is.
Well, yeah, they're just systems to map
Yeah.
out a universal thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there any more? Yeah.
Maybe some.
Here. We come
So
to this.
yeah. So and here we have. So economy is not only defined as holding the house, so to speak. It's also that your echo, the energy that you give out, will reach you. So it's an economy system. It's about jumping into the river, as we said in the O and O. So as your echo should come back to you, and no third party should be fiddling with your energy, stealing it in whatever in any way. So there are two definitions for the words for the economy word. It's both taking care of what exists, but also whatever you do will be visible for other people later. Just when just as my house, I have built it. My echo, the echo of my efforts, is now visible.
This is amazing. It's also about the, but it's doesn't even need to be stated that it has to do something with the environment in the nature. The eco ecology
exactly.
is the word for what they call it in English. It's the geology or the
The ecology. I
the
think it's the same
ecology.
word.
It's the same.
Yeah, yeah,
Ecology.
yeah, yeah.
Logi, and logi, it's like logic in that word. It's the
Yeah,
logic of nature.
what can it be? The logic of giving and receiving, perhaps. The echo.
With the ecology,
Yeah, perhaps.
I'm thinking like echo. Yeah,
To have an echo, you have to give and then receive.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it has to do with the logic. That
Exactly.
that word, of course.
Yeah.
But everything is like rooted in the logic. Also, especially up here, you need to know about the logic of the echo, the ecology also.
Yeah. Yeah, you do.
Yeah, but otherwise we couldn't survive.
No. It's quite hard up here in the Arctic.
Yeah, I can just imagine like before all the electricity and all that.
Yeah.
My God, and the cars and snowmobiles and
Yeah, and it's only like 100 years ago.
yeah, it's not.
Yeah. I don't know. Was that the last slide? I don't remember.
This is the last.
Yeah. And then we have this free trade that they are speaking about, these talking heads on the TV. Frihandel. So that everything, it should be free for the biggest and meanest to trade without any cost whatsoever. But when we give, we should be paying a lot of taxes and whatever. So it's instead of, if you make an 180 from free handel, we came from to free giving, or in Swedish that has two meanings actually. It's both that giving should be free, but it's also releasing. So it's the releasing of humanity.
Yeah, but also
Giving should be free. You should be free
People-
to give your people
people
without any
shouldn't be
cost.
stacking up like they do.
Yeah,
I mean, it's absurd. It's better to have stuff in the rotation, so to speak, than
Exactly.
to just stack up that, like the one. There's so few with most of the money.
Yeah.
And that must be because of this banking, like you have been showing how we never can crawl out of the debt.
no, it's impossible.
The collected state, so to speak.
We don't have the money anymore. They have them already, so we can't be paying both.
No.
It's impossible. And then I think this was the last slide, wasn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah. So and then about implementing this, it's just you have to remember, so to speak, that everything that we see today already has some kind of value, and then it's just a matter of how much debt should we have connected to it. And then it's just what we have to do, according to me, then would be to shift these debts into freedom of choices, and then all the repayments that have already been done should of course be counted as true repayments, and not paying of this interest or the fee. So that we should come back to the balance. We must make sure that the contracts that we have about freedom of choice should have the same amount of freedom of choice as omgivare, so to speak. It has to be balanced. That's the only thing. And then you have to be. We are not starting from scratch where nothing exists. We have a lot of things already, so we just have to balance it. And then we have every institution can work more or less as they do today, when it comes to the giving, the creation power of money. It's just that it should absolutely not be allowed to take any cost for it.
Exactly. That's the big issue, because
Yeah.
they can regulate that as they like almost.
Absolutely.
It's insane if you think about
And then now we're in a really scary situation. We have almost no interest rates, and still, if the interest rate would increase anything in Sweden, I think half of the smallest legal entities, the communes, will get into default. They will go bankrupt.
You
So
have
the
seen that already.
Sorry?
You have started to see that already.
Exactly. So half of Sweden is on the edge of going bankrupt.
You can see they merge into other
Yeah,
communes and so.
Luckily, or whatever we should call it, government have created all these new markets, so it's possible for them to sell out their kindergartens, their car testing facilities, or elderly homes. But as to me, that's just, if you're an obese person or if you're overweight, it's selling out your common property is just like cutting your leg off to lose weight. Oh, sure, you will lose weight, but you are not the same afterwards.
Exactly.
And then it's just a mental thing. It's a rigged system. It could never work, this current
From the beginning.
Exactly.
But it's exactly like he pointed out.
Yeah.
He has been thinking in your terms, but maybe not about the solutions all that much. But it's nice to see a different perspective on this, especially from you, who has the experience and the interest.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's very important to remember that nothing happens outside of your head. That's where everything happens. So you have to be really, really careful about your thinking and your beliefs.
Yeah. it determines your
and
actions sometimes.
not get carried away by no matter how carried how important people around you. You have to stick to your own thinking. You have to be. You're, in the end, you're responsible yourself for your thinking.
Yeah, you see a lot of people that you can think are crazy. They blame everyone else but themselves. Are we gonna pop our heads in here now for the ending?
Yeah, maybe.
To see, we are running really late on this one.
Yeah. It's getting dark outside.
Yeah. I can't see you on the camera though, but...
Am I here? I don't know. I have to turn up some.
Put the camera on if you can.
I think the camera is on. It's so dark here.
Oh, maybe it's too dark, but... Oh, there we go. Yeah, it's getting really dark. But I think we need to wrap up here, Fredrik.
Yep.
We have gone long over what we planned to do. But I'm sure people who are really interested in, especially people like who are working in bank, must think this is something they might want to read. Or
or the opposite, perhaps.
Yeah,
people
maybe that too.
Are so fed up with it and just can't. Just the word economy makes the head black, so to speak. You simply hate the subject.
It would be interesting to actually read the book, because you're the only one who, and your publisher then, that has read it, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. So you never know. I don't know where. I really would like some people to read it, and so I can improve the thinking, perhaps. But
it's nice. You have at least put a new idea out, and a new way of looking at it.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, I think so. You know, this, I need to re-listen to this too. But you know, when
yeah, sorry. It got into a marathon, but
but it's nice. I'm sure the people will find this interesting. So
thank you for taking the time.
Thank you, Fredrik. This is good work.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have to think about this too and read your book to see how you have. Maybe there's more there, so it makes
Yeah. Sure.
It can be first time you're being introduced to such a big subject. It's really huge. This.
Yeah.
Because it's take on all kinds of subjects into one account, and that can be really hard for people, I think. So yeah, we will see if people react to this.
Yeah, exactly.
And how.
Yeah, but thank you very much for having me. I think it's I think it maybe this recording is long enough as it is.
Yeah. Thank you, Fredrik. We talk again soon.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.